Resolution number 481-16, adopted by the Hawaii County Council on April 6, 2016, establishes this Banyan Drive Hawaii Redevelopment Agency and authorizes Mayor Kinoi to appoint, with the approval of the council, the 5 members to this agency. Mayor Kinoi has appointed 5 members to this agency. They are Mary Bigier for a 1-year term, Sigmund Zane for a 2-year term, Elmer Gorospi for a 3-year term, Barry Taniguchi for a 4-year term, and Brian DeLima for a 5-year term. Application forms for each of the above nominees were sent to you earlier, and this morning we have with us Mr. Sig Zane.
Mahalo Shar. Aloha, Mr. Zane. If you want to just introduce yourself and just say a few words.
Aloha. It's an honor to serve the county, and I think that our Banyan Drive is something that we need to address. We have a lot of more people coming to our island, and just from a cultural perspective, I think that it's something that we need to look at closely and really help out for the future generations. Thank you.
Mahalo. Council members, I'll open it up for discussion. Mr. Ilagan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, Mr. Zane, before I ask any questions, I would like to bring up the director. The reason why is most people don't really understand the Banyan Drive Redevelopment Agency.
The initiative for the Banyan Drive Hawaii Redevelopment Agency came about as the leaseholds for several of the properties along Banyan Drive were set to expire, and I think over the time frame some of them have expired. The administration a couple of years ago formulated a task force to look at what the county could do to participate in that effort with the state to try and address what the future would hold for these leases that were expiring. Over the course of that task force and in dialogue with the State Department of Land and Natural Resources, which owns 98%, the state owns 98% of Banyan Drive, the major landowner, and whose revenue stream from Banyan Drive basically comes off of those lease rents. We decided to go forward with a collaborative effort to see what could be done to revitalize and rejuvenate the area. In the course of doing so, we knew for a while that the Banyan Drive area was also covered under the Hawaii Redevelopment Authority. After the 1960 tsunami devastated all of Hilo, the Hawaii Redevelopment Agency was created. There was a state statute that allowed its creation, and that allowed this agency to go in and physically redevelop either devastated or blighted areas. What the administration did is we took that existing model, the Hawaii Redevelopment Agency, whose powers, duties, authorities had sunsetted in 2001, I believe, and transferred to the planning department. What we did is we took that initiative to create a subset of this Hawaii redevelopment area limited to the area of Banyan Drive. And so what we did is we followed the exact steps that's provided for in HRS 53, which is the Hawaii Redevelopment Act. There's several alternatives there. We took the alternative that best fit the situation, which involved this creation of the agency. As you know, the designation for the project area was initiated by the Planning Commission, came to the council for their review. the formation of the agency itself came to the council for their review and approval. And this is just a next step in formulating that agency through the nomination of these board members.
I know it's going to take a lot of work, and with your creativity and artistic talent, I'm sure you bring a different side compared to the others that I've seen. And I like the fact that you, for one thing, if I wasn't wearing a Barong Tagalog right now, I'd be wearing a Zig Zane shirt. And the only reason why I could afford a Zig Zane shirt is because I ended up getting some council pay. Otherwise, I would gotten Sears $20 Aloha shirts.
I believe that really the future, or the way that to advance the economic future of this island, really is dependent on Hilo having the availability of high quality accommodations. I mean, I'm from District 9, but just really looking at us as an island, and visitors who come here, and they come here on the Kohala side, but then it's looking for what is available here in Hilo, and really creating that image and that availability. And I think that Mr. Ragu, if I've got his name right, sort of look at all the restaurants and creating that package that's an island package. It's not, I hear people, I've been to the Mauna Lani 5 years in a row, I'm sort of tired of Hawaii, that you want people, where are those other days, and feeling that we've got that market.
You want to share anything on what you think, or any vision or thing that you foresee for that area? Or what you would like to see come out of this? Sorry, I'm putting
not
you on
yet.
the spot. I didn't know a little bit.
Not yet.
And not yet. Okay. I'm sure it's going to be great anyway. Mahalo nui. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paleka, Ms. Yao.
Thank you. And I don't want to repeat what my fellow council members have already said, but I just want to say thank you for being willing to serve on the commission, and I'm really looking forward to the outcome as well. And thank you, Director and Mayor Kinoy, for putting this together so fast. Thank you.
Mr. Chung?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Sig and Dwayne. Hey, Dwayne. So what's going to be the county's powers or authority vis-a-vis that of the state, specifically Board of Land and Natural Resources? Can you kind of explain to us how that's all going to work into this equation?
Well, as you know, as we started going through this, and we made sure that the state was involved all the way through, to the extent that they actually signed a memorandum of understanding, pledging their participation. I'm envisioning this to be a collaborative effort because the state can't accomplish the things they need to accomplish just because they're the landowner and what they want to do. They need the county to participate as well. But the creation of this agency, it's kind of like a super agency that would actually transcend both of our authorities in that area. So I foresee this agency, once they set up their master plan, providing actually more of an incentive to the state to actually collaborate and attract tenants for projects in that area, which all need the approval of this agency, which has to be consistent, with the master plan they develop. Now, this master plan can also provide for exemptions, from zoning requirements, maybe additional height benefits, additional ground cover ratio benefits, things of that nature that we as a county couldn't do. and neither could the state. So those are the kinds of advantages that having a master plan and having this agency oversee and implement this master plan brings to the whole table.
Right now, the board has the power to lease, right? I mean, they're the leasing agency. So how does that all work into this? Will this agency be able to trump what the state is doing? I mean, and right now, I know there's a real collaborative atmosphere, and if not, we wouldn't be here right now. But, you know, I'm kind of looking forward in time, and, you know, we don't know what's going to happen. I just want to know who's going to have the power to lease and determine extensions and things like that. Because I got to be honest with you, and this is no offense to you guys, but I don't think the state has been doing a real good job in that area.
I think they recognize that
Okay.
too, which is why they've come to the table with us. The way I envision it to go is that the county won't act. The agency HRA won't actually step into the place of the state, but there's requirements within the statute that almost require state, county agencies to cooperate and be in tune with what the agency's directives are. In a situation where there was some kind of devastation, or there was a real complete blight situation down there, and and the need arose, this agency could also go in there and condemn. But given that there's certain leases that are in place, as well as I know, those kinds of actions, unless clearly warranted, are just going to tie things up, right, forever. So that's why we're hoping this collaborative effort with the agency overseeing both the county efforts and what DLNR does down there. We hope that'll do the trick there.
Well, right now, I'm really excited about this whole thing, and we've talked about this
Right.
before. And I just mentioned to Ms. Poindexter actually the other day how I believe that of all the good things that Mayor Kinoy has done, in terms of getting things on the ground, in my estimation, at least as it relates to the east side of the island, this is probably, in my opinion, the most significant measure that he is going to have done during his 8 years, because this is truly significant. I wanted to thank you, Bill Brilhante, the mayor, fresh, for bringing this forward, right, the resolution, and all of you who have been involved in this, because I know it took a lot of time and effort on your part to work with the state, and I actually thank them, because again, I stated it earlier, I'm very disappointed with the way they've administered that whole peninsula. It has such an important bearing on our health, economic health, cultural, social health, and they haven't done a good job. I'll just say it. So I'm looking forward to seeing these guys on board. And for Sig, he needs no introduction, right? Even if you guys don't know him, you guys know he's a good guy, right? I mean, just for what he stands for. A long time ago, I had this discussion with Pat Kahavaiola, from Kyokaha, and it had to do with something in downtown, and I can't recall what it was, because this was many, many years ago. And he said, hey, the best guy to talk to would be Sig. I never did talk to you because you're too busy. You're flying all over the place. And but he said because he and his family just have this real good cultural and historical perspectives on not only the downtown area, but the whole Bayfront area. He said Sig and his family, that's the go-to guys. So I think, what I'm sad to see, though, is you're only serving for 2 years. Yeah, but I don't know how the reappointment goes on this thing. Maybe he can get reappointed and stuff, but you get my wholehearted endorsement there. See.
Hey, Mr. Chung, Mr. Onishi.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, and the business people in Hilo was trying to get the state, for over 6-7 years ago, to get one working group for Banyan Drive, but we never could establish that. And they would never, right? They never did want to get that group together. So this is a great opportunity to create this agency, and now we can move forward with the Banyan Drive, because to me, Banyan Drive is like the center of Hilo for tourists. So like that Pico, right? And so without having great development there or offering the tourists to stay in Banyan Drive, it's we wasting money. I mean, we're not gaining money too, right? And it's a waste of time and a great place, right, where there's so much land that can be utilized, and so I was going to ask you too about your vision because I've heard things pop up, and the late senator Kahele was looking at one Hula Convention Center, right? Some kind of a Hawaiian cultural center place over there, which makes sense too, right? So that's why it was great to hear that you was on board. So maybe you could bring that knowledge to this working group. And as Mr. Chung mentioned, I looked at the terms. I mean, so how will the terms go? Like, like say marries for 1 year. So what happens after she termed the 1 year? Then what happens?
Then she's eligible to for reappointment for the rest of the it's a 5 year.
So
they're all 5 year terms.
Okay,
yeah.
so then like for Brian, he has his 5 already. Then
Correct. Yeah.
okay. And then now from this group, they have to select a chair, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And how often will they be meeting? Because you mentioning that you're hoping to have a plan by the end of summer.
Yes.
So how often they're going to meet?
They're going to meet often.
So will the 5 of them be able to be going to those meetings, participating?
They would need to in order for the implementation schedule to work.
Because we look at our track record of the commissions, the boards. I mean, it's always hard to get everybody together, right? And especially with something like this is very important. That I don't want to see where, only going to get like 3 members coming and so forth. Because it's going to take all of you folks to determine what is the future of Banyan Drive, right? And to me, I want to make sure that it is set where, it's going to be great. Like, so when we start moving forward, there's a plan, like a 5, 10, 20-year plan, and see how we're going to have this peninsula to develop revenue source to, not only to the people of this island, but to the whole state, right? Because we talk about the TAT. This is going to be one place where maybe we can bring in that revenue, right? And so now we don't always have to hear that, only on the west side the TAT is coming from. So now we can say, hey, on the Hilo side, we have a place where, we're having a lot of revenue being generated, right? So I thank you, Sid, for volunteering your services, and I want to thank Director Kanuha and the mayor for moving forward on this, and also to Bill Brahanti, who was instrumental to getting this thing going too. I mean, working with the state was so much roadblocks, right? I mean, thank God we got the new administration with Suzanne Case that agreed upon, right, working together, where in the past we had a harder time doing that. So my other last thing would be is that if we can do something for the Kanoilehua industrial area, if we can have like something like this in place for that area too, because I mean, the owner, the companies that are leasing, are having so much problems that we need to start doing this to, I guess show some guidance or leadership to the state and say, okay, this is what we want to see. Yeah. So you got my 110% support, and thank you.
All of you know these folks are just really business folks. I believe Elmer just came out of some kind of emergency procedure yesterday. Mary's on the mainland. Brian's in court. So they just weren't able to make it today.
Oh, okay. Because I would like to hear what their visions are, and seeing what they're looking. They're I guess looking at how they're going to develop down there, because everybody has their own ideas, right? And so it's great to see how everybody's thinking. But thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Onishi, Ms. Willie.
Yeah, a couple quick things. One thing I would like you to look at is sort of what, and probably you would do it anyway, but the rents that are being charged by DLNR, just from my some exposure to that, wondered whether like the rent to the Hilton, the Mauna Loa, isn't too high, and that we would really want more if we could get more commitment for improvements and upgrades. So just one thing. And another would just be, I know, if you could report to us maybe periodically, I mean, it would be great. And just sort of then letting people know what's going on and enable others in the communities to weigh in and give suggestions on certain things. Sort of get the conversation on the, that beginning level. I know Maui has a program, I don't know, I'm going to say mini TAT, but something on a county level where it's the funds that are collected, say, from hotels, are then totally dedicated to marketing or to promotion. And it's it seems to be something that's very successful. That's not directly related to you, but I would appreciate if some who are knowledgeable that might weigh in and let you all know how that program works. I think that when in sort of looking at our future, the first key was terms of tourism was getting direct flights, say from Japan to Kona, and we now have that in line. So I really think that was the first major challenge, and now this second with really upgrading accommodations and all in Hilo is the next step. I feel basically after the 5 years we ought to say no more. We want this done now. Let's, we don't want this. We want it, get it and get it going. And it's with the increased flights from the mainland to Japan and all that, people come and we want them, the whole thing to be, we want them to come back, they'll come once. So, anyway, just a few other things. I really encourage you, and I like to meet often. And of course, with respect to CDPs, I feel that way too, Director. You know that. But thank you so much, and I really look forward to hearing if you could come back with some updates for us.
Thank you, Ms. Willie. Mr. Paleka?
And we talked about this a little bit when we were down at Hilo, Hawaii, just a couple of days ago.
Councilmember, I can't hear you well. Just if you could speak a little closer.
So we talked about this, and we kind of reminisce because, I grew up at Banyan Drive, at Nanali Hotel. My dad was a musician on there, and we were recalling the heyday, down there. Hilo Laguna was pumping, Hilo Hawaiian, and Travel Lodge, and Okinawa Hotel. And I remember those days. That was my playground. But it's about that, and that's why I kind of wanted to, but out respecting, I know you will come up with something really, really nice. But it's about also connecting with the spirituality of the place. That was important, I remember back then. But that place was happening. That bus is coming in and out, going to the volcano. So I really want to see that again. And what is good that we have individuals that remember that time and what was the quality product of that time. Okay, but I'm so glad that you're on the board. Mahalo nui. Thank you.
Mr. Ilagan?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Kanua, I was wondering regarding the master plan coming to us, is that going to be more of, I guess to simply put it, what can we do in amendments to that master plan, or is it already set?
That's the charge of this agency, to develop that master plan. For example, the state has they've already conducted a number of studies because of their holdings, what they're going to do for their leases, etc. So they've conducted useful life studies. In other words, those buildings down there, structurally, how long more can they last? Not very long, all of the studies are showing. They've done sea level rise studies to make some preliminary determinations whether or not if some of these structures can, if they're good for the future, whether or not they still should be built in that same footprint. There've been some master lease studies, in terms of whether or not implementing a master lease for the whole peninsula would make any sense. When they did the studies, maybe not. Under something like the HRA, it may have possibilities just because of the venue is different. So, there's that kind of background work that's been done down there. There's also a lot of history in the land uses and stuff for the HRA.
Is that there won't be, it'll be just confirming or accepting the master plan once it comes to the council.
When you get it, you vet it yourselves, based on public testimony, how it went through the process, because the vetting process will be a public one at some point in time. What we're looking at is a series of design charrettes for Banyan Drive. That will be a public process. I envision that the agency will, select a preferred plan. That plan will carry the recommendation to the Windward Planning Commission, and then it will come up before the council. So it gets vetted publicly all the way through.
So are you saying that we are the last stage will be vetted? Or?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And once, let's say, there is a concern that was brought up, and as a council we have a majority to change it, what exactly would we be able to change? Can we change the document? In other words, so yes.
Yeah, you always have that alternative.
Okay, I just want to say mahalo. I fully support your nomination and look forward to seeing the great things that yourself and the group comes up with. And just mahalo for serving and volunteering your time. Mahalo. Okay, council members, all in favor of the motion to approve Mr. Zane, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's 9 ayes. Motion passes.